Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. Support for the Coalition has strengthened in mid-April, up 0.5% to 51% on a two-party preferred basis, just narrowly ahead of the ALP on 49%, according to the latest Roy Morgan poll. This is the first time the Coalition has led in the Roy Morgan poll for 2 straight weeks since 2022 federal election. Now, the extension of the youth curfew in Alice Springs for another week, it finally ends this week, and the discussion about the asylum seekers arriving by boat in Western Australia have both hurt the Albanese government in recent weeks. The interviewing for this Roy Morgan poll was largely done before the horrific Bondi Junction knife attack on the weekend, and before Foreign Minister Penny Wong suggested Australia could recognise a Palestinian state. If an election were held now, the results would be too close to call, with the support of minor parties and independents required for either major party to form government. There was better news with other key indicators, which all moved in a positive direction this week. Roy Morgan government confidence increased 4.5 points to 78.5, but still well below the neutral level of 100. Now, a third of Australians say the country's heading in the right direction, while 54.5% say the country's heading in the wrong direction. In terms of consumers, ANZ Roy Morgan consumer confidence increased 1.6 points to 83.5 this week, its highest since early February. Despite this increase, consumer confidence has now spent a record 63 weeks below the level of 85. Looking back over the last few months, consumer confidence has now moved in a narrow band of 80 to 85. However, as we must keep reminding ourselves, although the Reserve Bank haven't increased interest rates since November, the momentum in mortgage stress and cost of living pressures continues unabated, keeping a lid on consumer confidence. Inflation expectations were marginally down this week after 3 weeks of increases. So inflation expectations were down by 0.1% to 5.2%. Australians now expect annual inflation to be 5.2% over the next 2 years. Like consumer confidence, inflation expectations have stayed within a narrow band of 4.8% to 5.3% since early December. So how are businesses feeling? Well, Roy Morgan's business confidence for March shows the index down 3.5 points to 98. Roy Morgan interviews around 1,500 businesses each month to gauge their views on their company's prospects, as well as their assessment of the broader Australian economy. So the driver of the decrease in March was a deterioration in views about the performance of the Australian economy over the next year and over the next 5 years, with both indicators now clearly in negative territory. However, businesses are generally optimistic about their own performance going forward. Now, 49.6% of businesses expect to be better off financially this time next year, compared to only 24% that expect that their business will be worse off. So optimism outweighs pessimism 2 to 1. On the important issue of businesses investing for growth, more businesses say now is a good time to invest in growing their business, 46.9%, than say now is a bad time to invest in growing their business, 42.9%. Over the last 2 months of February and March, 8 industries had business confidence in positive territory. That's above that neutral level of 100. The most confident industry was again accommodation and food services, with a business confidence of 141.9. This industry has had a stellar last few months and been clearly the most confident since summer began in December. The second most confident industry is education and training on 128.7. This industry has enjoyed a continued boom and been among the top 5 most confident industries for nearly 2 years since July 2022, just after the last federal election. Other confident industries at the moment include finance and insurance on 117.6, professional, scientific and technical services on 112.6, and mining on 110.4. At the other end of the scale, Transport, postal and warehousing again has clearly the lowest business confidence at only 56.2. Other industries with below average business confidence early in 2024 include public administration and defence, information media and telecommunications, and agriculture. And finally today, to a quick recap of the annual Roy Morgan Customer Satisfaction Awards, which were held late last week. Now, to arrive at the winners of these awards, we assess more than 300 companies competing in 38 categories, plus we look at the best of the best. While we at Roy Morgan analyse the data that determines the winners, the real judging panel is made up of customers themselves, thousands of them, giving their honest, unvarnished opinions. And that's what makes these awards so meaningful and highly valued to the organisations that win them. Roy Morgan's annual Customer Satisfaction Awards are the gold standard in identifying companies and brands that stay ahead of the pack by knowing what their customers want and consistently delivering it. The Roy Morgan Customer Satisfaction Awards feature many of Australia's most impressive companies. However, there can only be one company named as the best of the best for having the highest customer satisfaction of any of the 38 winners during 2023. In 2023, that company was Aussie Broadband for the first time, just ahead of car manufacturer Skoda, ubiquitous liquor chain Dan Murphy's, and supermarket chain Aldi. Aussie Broadband enjoyed a stellar year, winning not only the mobile phone service provider of the year for the first time, but also the internet service provider of the year for a third time. Aussie Broadband had customer satisfaction of an exceptional 97.5%. That's extraordinary. And they beat car manufacturer of the year Skoda by the barest of margins. So Skoda came in second place with 97.1%. For those interested in learning more about the companies delivering the highest customer satisfaction to their Australian customers, I encourage you to head over to the Roy Morgan website to find out more. And that's a wrap. Thanks for your interest this week in Roy Morgan's latest results, and I'll be back next week to bring you the most up-to-date readings on consumer confidence, inflation expectations, and voting intention.